Morning, Ward Meeting Council. So on the screen that you currently see, it's a brief synopsis of the meetings that Kelly has been in attendance of for the last month. In addition, there's two meetings that I'd like to highlight that are in advance of this meeting, which is the Administrative Task Force the Administrative Building Design Task Force, which is being held June 1st in this room, the Frontenac room. As well, there's a special meeting on June 8th, a special council meeting on June 8th, which will be held virtually. Prior to that, I just wanted to highlight a couple of things. So Fairmount Home had a site visit on April 27th from G Architects to look at the redevelopment study for the home. And we will be bringing forward the options from that study in coming meetings. There's also a Frontenac CAO meeting on April 28th, Emergency Management Program Committee meeting on May the 6th. And as well, Kelly is currently at an OMAA conference from May 17th to the 20th, which is why it's not in attendance today. Just a brief update from Kelly. I want to make slides forward. EOWC Wardens meeting was held on May the 13th in Pembroke, and an EOLC meeting, board meeting, was held on May the 11th, which he was in attendance for. So as far as a provincial matter update, I just wanted to touch base on the Drive On program, which is a combination of emission testing and safety inspection programs for heavy diesel commercial vehicles. The program is to start with vehicle emission testing in spring of this year, followed by summer motor vehicle inspection stations. There's also the on-site and excess soil regulation, which is being phased in over a number of years. But they're currently taking changes that were to become in effect January 1st, 2022, and delaying those implementations until January 1st, 2023, to give municipalities and other organizations more time to implement the regulations. And lastly, there's a large quadricycle pilot program for non-electric and electrically assisted large quadricycles, just to where they can be permitted on roads and in an aim to help with positive economic impacts for municipalities by promoting tourism opportunities with those vehicles. The right to disconnect policy. The intent of the policy is to ensure that the County of Frontenac has clear definitions of the roles and responsibilities, and to ensure that it meets its obligations under Bill 27, which is Working for Workers Act. The right to disconnect is found in various areas already in the Employment Standards Act, including the hours of work, rest periods, eating periods, vacation, and public holidays. The term disconnecting from work in the policy, as well as in the Employment Standards Act, is not engaging in work-related communications, including emails, video calls, telephone calls, just general sending or receiving of work messages, just being basically free from performing work. The policy should be read in correlation with the existing county policies, such as our vacation, health and safety policies, hours of work, accommodation, and any other related legislative requirements. As mentioned earlier, the administrative building redevelopment, the tender bids will close on May 25th. There's a joint meeting of the Administrative Building Design Task Force and CRCA on June 1st at 6:30 p.m. here at the county office in this boardroom, Frontenac room. All of council is encouraged to attend. And there will also be a special council meeting on June 8th at 9:30 a.m. virtually. Brief update on staffing at Fairmount Home. Fairmount continues to experience staffing challenges due to COVID and short-term illnesses, along with 25 open positions across various positions in the home. And we continue to utilize temporary agencies, but we are also competing for these temporary health human resources with other local healthcare partners. Just a brief update from Human Resources, 233 postings as of May the 10th, with a high level of competition for RN, RPN, PSW, and paramedic positions. Natalie Moody was hired as a temporary HR coordinator to replace Carol Moody. Negotiations for QP 2290 occurred on May 3rd, 4th, and 5th. 109's bargaining is ongoing. Several dates with OPSU, several in February, one in May 9th, and two to come in July. The HRIS system that's currently underway is requiring an ongoing data upload for payroll, recruitment, onboarding, and offboarding, and the staff scheduling module will commence shortly. So we've seen a strong engagement across our online channels in April. Among the top social media posts was a recruitment piece for administrative assistant for Frontenac paramedics. And on our website side, the career page was once again the top non-landing page in frontnaccounty.ca. The next top performing item in April was the backyard chicken survey related to Central Frontenac zoning bylaw review. The online consultation collection portion of the Central Frontenac zoning bylaw review was completed using social media channels for promotion, to pose specific questions to residents, and to drive respondents to the engagefrontenac.ca project page. The results were provided to colleagues in planning in Central Frontenac for review on May the 3rd, and almost 1,000 respondents visited the project page from March 23rd to May 3rd, with 428 survey submissions collected during that period. From planning and economic development, they're working on a feasibility study for redeveloping the former Sharbert Lake school site on communal services. There's also revisions being made to the consultant's draft report, with staff anticipating the final report to the Township Council later this spring. Central Frontenac is in the early stages of their comprehensive review of their zoning bylaw. There are a number of zoning topics up for discussion, which are being put forward for engagement through the Engage Frontenac website. And the Marysville official plan amendment, is available also on Engage Frontenac. There was an open house on April 27th and a public meeting on May the 9th. One further public meeting is planned before the final version of the proposed amendment will be presented to Township Council.
That's the secondary.
Sorry, secondary official plan amendment. Planning applications from the townships, they're seeing an increase over April and May with Frontenac, Allen's, Marysville secondary plan of the official plan amendment public meeting, in addition to committee of adjustment files. With spring approaching, site and septic inspections have resumed, and staff are expecting to see an increase in applications to the committee over the coming months.
Very active. Quite well.
And as far as KMP Trail, the annual grading and dust suppression has been completed. Geotechnical inspections have begun for the Albo Creek Bridge replacement, and the Verona Trailhead is nearing completion, with official ribbon cutting anticipated in late June. And finally, just staff updates. We're saying farewell to Angelique, who was executive assistant in corporate services, and a farewell to Carolyn, who was working in human resources. And of course, a welcome to several students, Ava in economic development, Lydia and Riley in GIS, and finally Rachel in planning.
Thank you, Susan. Is there any questions for Susan on that report? Councilor Vanderwall?
Yes, I have two. Disconnecting from work. We had this discussion last night at our council meeting. How are you going to have people call in sick and call people to come to work? They're disconnected for the weekend. The policy isn't that clear, I don't find, because there's a lot of gray area that you have to call people anyway. I know that our whole public works department, all of these places are not going to disconnect from work, even though there is a policy, because you can't. That's just the reality of it. So I think some of that is a bit of a gray area, and we did not pass it last night because we need some clarity, we think.
That the HR manager to respond to that question. Thank you.
I'll save my second comment.
Yes, so we do have our policy ready for the county. And in regards to that specific question, you're right, the legislation is quite vague, but it also says it's already covered in the ESA under hours of work, vacation, those kinds of things. So in our policy, we set out that, we want to attempt not to be contacting people or having them respond to emails, etc., except when, in the case it's a posting that they've applied to and they need to respond as to whether or not they're accepting that posting, or if they're required to send in documentation, for example, an absence. So there are scenarios where we will still have to contact people if they want to shift and they provided availability. We have to let them know there's a shift available, and then they need to respond as to whether or not they're gonna take that shift.
So that would be in your own policy outside of what the legislation says.
Yeah, because the legislation is quite big.
Thank you.
Any other questions on that?
See, no other questions on that topic? Do you have another question?
Well, the only other question is when are they gonna have it just the trailhead open? I know there's an official opening, but it's paved and it's been sitting there a week and they still got the pylons up. I know they want to do some landscaping in that, but it's well used and I'm just wondering, I hope he's not gonna leave it like that till the end of June because people will be pretty excited by then. It'll be Richard, but I don't know, but
Cars can't park in there yet?
no,
It's blocked off.
it's been paid for a week, but it's sitting there and I don't know what, I know they want to do some landscaping, I'm sure fill in the curves with dirt and that.
Richard, if you're online, could you answer that? Maybe we can get somebody
Yeah,
to
I
respond
just-
to that question later today.
Okay.
before we- Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, it just took me a second to come online here. We're just planning to paint some lines later this week, and then we'll be able to open it up hopefully for the weekend.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Susan? Susan wasn't at the meeting, so I'm going to ask our warden, was there anything specific at the EOWC meeting that council should be aware of?
No, other than we're still going to get into the Ontario Health Blues file and the doctor recruitment file. There wasn't a whole lot of new information, but staff is working on those as well as long-term care. Okay. So work in progress, but no major movement in the last meeting.
And I'll report on the EOLC part of it, just for council's benefit. The EOWC has identified 2 candidates to replace the board members on the EOLC. The AGM will be held in June to replace myself and Rick Bruce. Any other comments or questions? We'll move on to the next item. We don't have any unfinished business. The recommended reports from the CAO. The first one, appointment of the Community Emergency Management Coordinator.
Moved by Councillor Rebel, seconded by Councillor McDonald, be it resolved that the Council of the County of Frontenac receive the office of the Chief Administrative Officer, appointment of Community Emergency Management Coordinator and alternate Community Emergency Management Coordinator report, and further that the emergency management portfolio be moved from the Emergency and Transportation Department to Corporate Services, and further that bylaw 2017-0048 being a bylaw to adopt an emergency management program and emergency response plan and to meet other requirements under the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act be amended to appoint Jeanette Amin, Manager of Legislative Services and Clerk as the Emergency Management Program Coordinator and Primary Community Emergency Management Coordinator, the CEMC, responsible for the emergency management program for the county, including maintenance of the plan, training, exercises, public education, and such other duties as responsibilities as outlined in the Act, and appoint Mark Podgers as an alternate CEMC to act in place of the primary CEMC in his or her absence.
Any comments or questions? Councilor Vanderwall, and then Wardens.
I was just gonna say, it's nice to see they didn't put / deputy weed inspector too, because they're gonna add more things to you.
Warden Doyle.
Excellent choice of person. That's my full support.
To do it, we assume. I see no other questions. All of it. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Just, is this for all of the county? Is this appointment to cover all of Frontenac County?
But not the municipalities.
It's not the mass.
That's correct. It's just the County of Frontenac. Each township has their own individual
Okay.
CEMs.
Any other questions? All in favor? Carried. Next is Fairmount Home authorization for capital replacement.
Moved by Councillor Higgs, seconded by Councillor Smith, be it resolved that the Council of the County of Frontenac authorize the use of capital replacement reserve funds for Fairmount Homes HVAC system replacement.
Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Next we have, Frontenac paramedics, authorization of receipt for proposals for new station.
Moved by Councillor Vanderwall, seconded by Warden Doyle, be it resolved that the County Council authorize staff to proceed with a request for proposals for the construction of a new two-bay paramedic station located at 2069 Battersea Road, with final approval of the award of the project to be confirmed by council, and further that staff be authorized to complete the necessary planning reports and approvals in conjunction with the RFP process.
Comments or questions? Any comments or questions? All in favor? Carried. Next is the transportation services.
Moved by Councillor Martin, seconded by Councillor Rebel, be it resolved that the Council of the County of Frontenac accept the emergency and transportation services ambulance supply shortage report for information, and further that council approve the transfer of up to $180,000 of the 2023 capital replacement reserves to be used in the 2022 budget year.
Any comments or questions on that? Councillor Martin?
Yeah, my question, I guess, would be, if we bring forward from 2023 to 2022, what happens in 2023? Are we still going to be short of an ambulance?
So at that point, we should be caught up. What'll happen in 2023? Will probably be the same thing happen this year, where we'll have to put in down payments with a lead time. So it'll probably just keep carrying forward, where the 2023 ambulances will save the down payment. But we'll have to put down a 2024 down payment in 2023. That answer your question?
That, now I understand where they're coming from. Yeah, I was concerned that we're going to have a year lag time where we're going to be short. And also the lead time on ordering an ambulance. I don't know how you keep your fleet going for that long. Like we're talking about years for ambulances.
You're correct, and that has been a problem throughout the province. There's other ambulance services in Eastern Ontario who are, running around the 500,000 and 600,000 kilometer range on some of their vehicles, and they just haven't been able to get replacements. We had ordered 2 new and 1 remount for 2022, and right now they're projecting one of the new ones to hopefully arrive in September or October, with no word on the other ones. So that's why we want to get in the queue for next year, so that we're in line to receive them. We're certainly going to see increases in maintenance costs to keep them on the road longer.
Thank you.
Sorry, Warden.
Yes.
Yes, I'm wondering about the status of electric vehicles. There's a lot of new electric commercial vehicles coming on the market. Probably not quite here yet, but given we're looking a year, 2 years out in ordering these, so time for us to have an update at council on just what the status is going to be.
Certainly, I can bring you something going forward. We did have a presentation at our Ontario Association of Paramedic Chiefs Conference a couple of weeks ago, and there are now paramedic ambulance electric units available. Currently, the range on them is only around 200 to 220 kilometers, which isn't going to be practical in a rural service because you run out of energy before you got your patient to the hospital. But it's something that's up and coming and that we're keeping our eye on, but I can bring it forward.
We appreciate that. Thank you.
So follow up to that, Gail, the new ambulance station, are we going to make sure we have plugins for electrical vehicles?
So we're in the early stages of the planning, but that, yes, it's been identified as something that we need to do.
Thank you.
That was my question.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Next, information, Fairmount Home Resident Family Annual Satisfaction Survey. Any comments or questions on that? And reports from county liaison. Fairmount Home Liaison report provided by Councilor Martin. Any questions on that? Councilor Martin?
Just a comment. Thank you, Susan, for the report.
Bill has mentioned to me earlier, he had wanted to say something.
Did you have something you wanted to say on that one, Bill? You're muted,
See your lips moving.
still muted. Can't read lips, Bill, can't hear you.
Now,
Yeah, there we go.
okay, Alex provided me with some information in regard to some of the programs that are continuing under corporate services. And I had made a copy for everyone, but because I'm not there, I would like to point out at least one or two of these that I think are pretty important. One's already been mentioned, that Janet's successfully completed the emergency management program. That was said earlier, but reporting requirements for the funds associated with COVID response is ongoing and seems to be increasing. In April 2022, the county received a request for all invoices for EMS COVID expenses incurred in 2020. While the funding for COVID-19 response is appreciated and it was necessary to sustain the operation during the uncertain times, retroactive reporting continues to take a lot of time for financial services outside of the day-to-day activities. And I think this is an important point that Alex makes here, that sometimes provincial money comes with, sometimes with strings that cost a tremendous amount of time on staff time. So I wanted county to be aware of at least that point in his report here. And I will make sure that all members of council get a copy of his full report. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Bill. Any questions for Bill? Seeing none. So next we have no reports from external boards and no advisory committee meetings. We can return to council.
Moved by Councillor McDonald, seconded by Councillor Higgs, the council revert from committee of the whole council to council.
All in favor? Carried. Floor is yours, Gordon.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. And we have adoption of the report of the committee of the whole.
Moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Deputy Warden Higgins, that the report of the committee of the whole council be adopted and that the necessary actions or bylaws be enacted.
Questions on that? All in favor? Carried. No notice of motions. Do we have any new ones for next meeting? We've seen none. We'll move on to communications. Questions on those? No less than this time. Other business? Do we have any questions from the public today? Having seen none, we'll go to bylaws.
Moved by Councillor Van de Wall, seconded by Councillor Martin, resolved that leave be given to the mover to introduce bylaws A and B that have been circulated to all members of county council, and that bylaws A and B be ready first and second time.
Any questions? All in favor? Carried.
Moved by Councillor Van de Wall, seconded by Councillor Martin, resolved that bylaws A and B be read a third time, signed, sealed, and finally passed.
There's some record. All in favor? Carried.
Moved by Councillor Rebel, seconded by Councillor McDonald, that the meeting hereby adjourn at 9:55 a.m.
All in favor? Carried.
There's a quick one.
What just happened?
Is it over? I didn't finish my sentence.
Hi, everyone.
Good man. Bill. You're telling us that. Okay.
Agency for